I'm with Foto Kem. I'm actually the SVP of the Creative Services Group at Foto Kem, so I run the feature film division. What I wanted to talk about a little bit today is about what we do as a facility and how we support 4K, and not just how we support 4K in the field with acquisition, but how we support it in the facility and some of the projects we've been working on and some of the processes we've been applying to shows. But the first point of entry for us on a project is in acquisition. We support feature films with our Nexlab system. The Nexlab system about 5 years ago was developed at Foto Kem as a way to do file-based dailies, to support file-based cameras like Red, Arri, the Alexa, obviously the F65, those types of cameras. How do we do that on the road? How do we make a system that we could travel and support productions near location? And we did that by developing our own software. We hired a team of engineers. We met with them. We designed and implemented and created Nexlab. And what Nexlab is and what it does really well, it ingests content from either camera magazines or hard drives. So we're the first protection copy in a lot of senses, and we work near set. Our systems are usually an editorial or in a production office. So we ingest that content, we make a protection copy, we ingest metadata, picture and sound, all of that information comes into the system. And then we start to media manage that material. We have a very simple, repeatable structure of the file. So we have a repeatable common file structure that's in Nexlab. Every time a source file comes in, it goes to the exact same place, which makes it very simple for us to track elements. So if we transcode something or we transfer something, we know exactly what's happened to that element, and we can follow that through the whole chain. On the color side, in Nexlab, we decided, and we made a pretty conscious decision to stick with CDL. So we've stuck with ASC CDL, limiting ourselves to lift, gamma, gain, and saturation. We did that for a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons is we work on a lot of visual effects shows. So those shows that do visual effects, we wanted to have a repeatable color pipeline. So what we do is we color time everything with CDL, we pass that along to visual effects, we pass along recipe for them to recreate what the dailies look was, and then they can faithfully represent what happened in dailies, which is a kind of a key component when we're going through the visual effects pipeline. Sync in Nexlab is very simple. It is automated if you're shooting with time of day timecode. Picture and sound automatically sync in the application, but it's obviously sometimes there are instances where we have 50,000 frames off on a C camera or something they haven't jammed. So we have very simple sync tools and functionality in the application. Then there's transcode. Everything comes into the system. We support multiple RAW formats, and we can basically take any file format in and transcode out any file format. Most of what we make is, to be honest, is DNX, ProRes, H.264s, DPX, EXR, those types of formats. That's what we usually deliver for various deliverables, editorial, PIX media, that type of thing. In our system, right now, we're archiving to dual TO6 tapes right now, so mirrored tapes. And there's always a checksum and a verification process that happens with that. We are speaking to clients right now where we're going to be archiving all of their assets in the cloud. So there are many clients of ours right now that are looking to publish content to the cloud, to have all that content in the cloud so you can access it at any time, which means putting applications in the cloud, which means cloud computing, which means a whole bunch of things. And then there's VFX and conform pools. In many cases, our Nexlab systems live beyond production. They'll live in the editorial room for the whole run of editorial, and editorial will feed an EDL into Nexlab, and they'll do their own visual effects pools. They'll do their own conform pools. I want to talk a little bit about a particular production that we worked on this last summer, a feature film. Shot everything on the Red Dragon at 5:1 red code R3D, and all the media came through Nexlab. We made ProRes proxy at UHD quality. That went into FCPX, and they're offlining at UHD. So everything that they're doing is UHD quality. There is no reason for them to go back to R3D. In their case, they will because they're a feature film, but I can see where this is going to become really advantageous to those filmmakers that want to do FCP offline for online. It's going to happen. It's already happening. So now the same group came to us this last summer, and they said, we have a TV series and we want to do something a little bit different. We want to cut in Avid, we want to work in Media Composer, but we want to work at HD. We don't have the storage for the show. There's too many episodes, too much content. So we made DNX36 for them out of Nexlab for all of their editorial media, and they cut at HD. But what they're doing now is they're actually conforming on a Symphony at DNX HR, so UHD quality. So they're going back to the source files, they're getting log media, they're transcoding everything just as a part of the cut. So whatever's associated with that cut, it's getting transcoding to DNX HR, it's going into a Symphony, and there's an auto conform happening. So We are still a film lab. We've been around for over 50 years in the business supporting film. There's still lots of film. Thank you. Traditionally, 35 4-perf would come to us as a part of a DI. We'd scan it on an ARRI, and we'd make 4K content. It would get scanned at 5.5K. We downsample to 4K for a deliverable or for a DI. Very common. More recently, we've been talking to a couple of projects where we're going to treat this as a file-based show. So we have a feature film that wants to shoot 35 4-perf. We're going to scan all the content in dailies at 4K, store it on a 1.5 petabyte NAS for them, and treat the film as a file-based show. So all the 4K files will come in, they'll get scanned with all the dynamic range within them. We'll be able to access them at any time. We'll be able to take them into Nexlab, sync sound, color correct, and transcode as we would with any file-based camera. But what this does is it means we don't have to go back to the film. We have the scans live the whole time. Whenever they want to pull a visual effect, we pull it from these 4K scans. It goes on into to DI the same exact way. So we're avoiding scanning all that negative and hanging again, and we're avoiding a lot of dust busting. Actually, there's going to be less cleanup that we have to do because of it. At Foto Kem, we're one of the only places to support 65mm film, and we support 5-perf, 8-perf, and 15-perf. We had a project this last year, and it's coming out in December, where the filmmakers came to us and said, we're going to shoot 65 5-perf for the entire feature film. So obviously that's a challenge. Those cameras are challenging to work with, and that film is a big piece of film. So there's very few systems in the world that can support 65 5-perf. In this instance, we telecine every day on a Millennium telecine machine at HD. We used Nexlab for daily, so scans basically files. We did use Nexlab to generate all of the dailies material, all the viewing copies, all of that material. But this filmmaker went a step beyond. They cut 65mm 5-perf. At the end of the day, we had a cut negative that we scanned at 8K and scaled down to 4K for all the DCI deliverables. There's a print that's going out that's 70mm print, but the DCI deliverable will be from an 8K scan that was sampled down to 4K for delivery. So we deal with 4K in a lot of different ways. We also did this for projects like The Sound of Music and Lawrence of Arabia. That's how we made very high resolution, very beautiful looking images from film originated content. These are the words and things that are being bantered about around our facility. Obviously, the UHD we've been talking about a lot today. IMF is something that we've been talking a lot about. We have an IMF delivery requirement for a lot of our studio vendors. The interoperable media format, which is basically an SR replacement for UHD type content. EDR, coined by the Dolby team, HDR, high dynamic range, and HFR. We've recently done a project using Resolve, thank you, and the Sony BVM-X300 to time content in HDR with a 1000-nit display. So we are actively seeing that. I think as Peter mentioned, HDR is amazing. The client that we were working with actually had to scan their film. It's film originated content. They had to scan it at 6K and down to 4K, and they had us do 4K and 2K content so they can see the difference. And between 4K and 2K, no difference. When we show them HDR at both 4K and 2K, it was HDR that won over. So they're actually trying to figure out a way to produce content from a library title that's at HD resolution, but HDR, so that they can get the HDR bang out of it and not have to go to the 4K resolution because they don't see the value there. So it's pretty interesting to hear and see when people come in a room and look at that content.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tom Weiss.